All right, ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be talking about Freyna. What makes Freyna great? What makes Freyna Freyna? We're going to be going over some good, some bad, some highs and lows about Freyna so you can understand the YouTubers out there in their videos on when they talk about building Freyna out. Now, when it comes to Freyna base and Freyna ultimate, I'm gonna go ahead and say it that the base Freyna form is completely overshadowed by ultimate Freyna, and we're gonna get into that in today's video. So right now we have the regular base version of Freyna and we have the ultimate version of Freyna. We have their stats comparative on the screen as shown in the chart here. Now, some of the major changes that happen when you go from her base form to her ultimate form is that she gets an increase in HP and she gets an increase in her shields. The rest of her stats do stay the same. Overall, Ultimate Freyna, with the little bit of bumps to her shield and her HP, makes her a way more viable character when pairing her with external components that increase HP and that may increase shield. Her defense stays relatively the same. Well, it does stay the same, but what I'm getting at is that her defense didn't increase because she already has a good baseline defense. And this is something good to build on, as some characters are a bit squishier than others, but Freyna isn't one of them. She has a lot of mechanics to her character kit that will give her increased defense and give her more defensive options and attack options at the exact same time, keeping Freyna in balance for attack and defense. Is she a little bit more, I wouldn't even say she's glass cannon type, because she is going to be prioritized doing AoE damage, taking out mobs, and clearing the battlefield as much as possible. And with her nerfs that happened way back when, and then she ended up getting a buff, they brought her in line to where her poison doesn't necessarily decimate the battlefield, but she is no longer a crit based character. Like, there was a big time where crit builds were highly favored in the game. You would do crit builds to get the max amount of your damage, but as they've tweaked and added in some modules and taken out some modules, her crit build really isn't the way to go anymore. It's more doing more base damage in order to get better ticks on her character kit. When it comes to a Descendants kit of how they move and how they act and how they respond to the battlefield, a Transcendent module can really elevate a character to the next level, or it could hold them back. I'm just going to go ahead and say bluntly that there are some baseline Freyna mods that, or Transcendent modules that people don't use, and we're typically heavily leaned into other things that seem or feel more favorable, such as her Contagion. So if we were to equip her Contagion and look at it real quick, it affects all her skills in a positive manner. It takes her zero room trauma or room zero trauma and spreads that poison more and does more. It gives you more bang for your buck. You poison an enemy, you kill the enemy, they spread the poison, it continues. You've seen it on the battlefield, you've seen it plenty of times. You've seen it just completely, the whole screen turns into this green gaseous vacuum that's absorbing all the little mobs into it. Not like Toad, right? You get what I'm saying, but like it's engulfing the battlefield and everybody's getting a piece of Freyna's toxic damage dealt to them. Now when we go into her ultimate form, this gets enhanced by her toxic mixture. Words are hard. And her toxic mixture adds necrosis to her build. Now, necrosis does a lot of things, and this is where Ultimate Freyna completely outshines basic Freyna, with necrosis making enemies more susceptible to the poison by giving them a negative resistance to critical hits. It gives them a negative resistance to poison. It increases your attack per stack, which it stacks up to 100 stacks. And then at the 0.9, I want to say that goes up to about a 90% firearm attack per stack, right? And it does have a duration of 5 seconds. So a whole bunch of enemies get hit with this necrosis, builds up a whole bunch of stacks, and you get that 90% firearm attack increase. This helps out significantly in I want to say Void and Purge at the same time. Void Erosion Surge. The Void Erosion Surge, because Freyna ended up encountering an issue when she did get nerfed, and that is that she can no longer completely wipe enemies off the map within 0.01 seconds versus what she does now, which kills them within like a second or a second 0.5. And that really makes the difference when you have those mechanical blue monsters coming at you and they like to hop and jump, and you got all these other enemies that like to pop shot you, and then that takes out your shield, and then you have an elite in the back that's trying to hit you. Freyna overall does have a very balanced kit. Another thing that people stick to is the Venom Injection. The Venom Injection, let's go ahead and equip it, changes her defensive mechanism. Defensive mechanism provided a 50% increase to her defense while giving her some utility for when the enemies attack you, it poisons them at the same time. The Venom Injection changes this to a toxic sense and consumes HP first before consuming MP, while granting you an increased skill power modifier, which is very favorable to Freyna because she needs a skill power modifier. And why would you? And what you would probably ask, why the skill power modifier instead of this a skill power instead of a skill power increase? And that's because her skill power modifier directly affects her poisons. Now her poisons have low skill power modifiers. Her overall skill power can be increased through modules and enhancing the reactor. Like, reactors matter. I don't know why people say reactors don't matter, but increasing those by her reactor. And when you have a low skill power modifier, you want to increase that because then that's going to give you more gains in the end when it comes to those little take damages. This applies to Viesa's hypothermia. This applies to Blair with his burning. So this doubly applies to Freyna and her poisons. The skill power modifiers on them are slightly lower so that when they are increased, it does more damage in the end. So you don't get a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? It's you don't get a lot of instant gratification. You get the delayed gratification. And that's not what a lot of people are looking for. They want the instant gratification. Everybody wants everything instantaneously. But again, with the Venom Injection, it does change her into a better poison spreader and a better like tick damage character as they want her to be. Before, there was this Venom Baptism in her old crit build that used to do a lot of damage to Colossi. It would melt Colossi. But now we have Haley on the battlefield to do that. We have Enzo's, we have Glaze, and all these characters. Well, those characters, and then we have Sharon's in the back, and you know, we don't talk about Sharon in the back doing her thing with ATAMs, and they, you know, a new sniper rifle came out, so Sharon's whatever. But Venom Baptism used to be the hotness back in the day. We used to talk about how to maximize her bullet count and how to get the duration up and how to get more bang for our buck here. But they want Venom Baptism to be on the back burner per se, versus it being the only thing that you want to spec into. They want you to utilize an entire Descendants kit in order to give it a more dynamic feel. That isn't the way that it feels with the newest characters that's coming to the game with Serena and Inez, as they have an issue with players nuking the map, and that is due to the fact that there's a lot more enemies and a lot less people like playing characters such as Blair, Viesa, and they want to stick to the Freynas because of what she used to do. We're stuck in the nostalgia era of how Freyna used to be versus how Freyna is. And a lot of misinformation out there is going to tell you that Freyna is going to be doing tons of AoE damage when that's really not the case. It's kind of a balance now of AoE damage along with gunplay. They want gunplay to matter, and to some people that's not favorable, but in the end, that is how they want you to play the game. They want you to do a build with skills, and then they want you to shoot your gun either all the time or occasionally. When it comes to pairing Freyna with weapons, the Fallen Hope has been my go-to weapon for a long time. I love Fallen Hope. I like the design, I like the way it looks, I like what it can do, and when attacking a poison enemy, it gets like a 75% damage increase when attacking a poison enemy, and then you combine that with her toxic sense and you get that 90% damage increase for the gun. The Fallen Hope becomes a monster, and then add that in there with the multi-hit chance, because the Fallen Hope does have a high multi-hit chance. I'll go ahead and show you that. There is that it has a 100% damage multiplier on its multi-hit damage. I don't know if I kept saying multi-hit chance, but I meant to say multi-hit damage. It does have a high multi-hit damage multiplier versus other weapons in the game. Now, the only thing that can compete next to this probably is the Ancient Knight, because it has its own internal things with its unique ability with multi-hit. But all in all, it does good weak point damage, it does good multi-hit damage, and the firearm crit damage on it is lower than some other weapons that sometimes sit at a 2.0 or 2.5 crit damage multiplier. So then when it comes back to the Fallen Hope, I still go into crit damage, I still go into crit rate, because we want that toxic, we want that secondary, and we want that multi-hit, right? It's doing a multitude of things at once, but what it can't do is directly like sit next to the Malevolent. The Malevolent is a weapon that came into the game to assist, in my opinion, it came to assist the Fallen Hope. Now, the Fallen Hope can do some things, but it does have a low mag count. You can kind of increase the mag count, but you don't really want to take away its fire rate. So the Malevolent comes into the picture in order to take down more enemies that her poison can't take out. If you've played Freyna for a while, you've probably encountered to where the enemies have gotten so strong, you end up poisoning them, and then you just have a whole bunch of enemies running at you that have this gaseous poison on them, and some of them get taken out, some of them don't get taken out, and then you do end up having to use your weapon. Malevolent kind of nips this in the bud, as when you max it out and you get your maximum amount of bounces, the damage modifier on the Malicious Pain, the unique ability of the Malevolent, it creates a cog on hit, and it created on a weak point hit it times 4, max bounces times 5, damage to the firearm times 24. So it grants itself a buff when it starts doing its thing. This is good, and it also has an innate toxic attack on it. That toxic attack is way higher than the Fallen Hopes, so building more into toxic attack and putting more toxic attack on the weapon is going to be very, very great for the weapon. This is not a build video for Malevolent of how to kit it out. This is still a build in progress, but I'm telling you of how things will go. If we're looking for a better Malevolent, we're doing firearm attack, you know, at the 10th level. We're doing firearm attack again at the 10th level, toxic attack at the 10th level, and I would do rounds per minute at the 10th level, because the fire rate is I like the cadence of it, so I'm not going to change the fire rate, even though it may theoretically do more damage. I like the rounds per magazine. And then the fire rate could go in the next slot down, or I would do another rounds per magazine to give it a little bit more bump. But I mean, that's preference at the end of the day. That's preference to some people at the end of the day. I'm not going to show you the modules or anything that I have on it, because we're talking about Freyna here, and this isn't a build guide video on the weapons of how to kit her out. This is an explanation and understanding how Freyna works. Now, we're going to go with a Toxic Mechanics Reactor, and we're going to have on here the Assault Rifle, and it needs to get tweaked, obviously, that I will put on there the Hand Cannon for the Malevolent, so when I change to it, I'm not getting punished for that. The launcher, right now you see ATAMs on there, but the launcher, I'm probably going to keep on there because I like using the Mad Bomber one. I think it's not Ancient Knight. I think it's Sigur's Proof that does that. It's either Ancient Knight or Sigur's Proof. One of them does that, but we're not going to get into that. The external components, I do like going with the Venom Essence set. We're looking for max HP. We want the max shield on there. We're looking for defense and shield recovery out of combat more than likely. So, well, the big thing here is that we're getting a big chunk of defense from here. We're getting our shield from here. We're getting our max HP from here. And we're going to get 2 defenses here. So we got defense here. We want defense there. We want defense there. We want to push that defensive number up higher and higher as much as we can possibly get it. And then in the end, we're going to get another HP modifier here. And we're going to get some shield and stuff here. If I was to get a perfect roll on this stuff, I would probably be going with more max MP because our MP still lacks. Because our MP didn't increase when we went to our ultimate form. It still sits a bit low. And then more of the modules that you want to equip on your ultimate Freyna or your regular Freyna could keep her HP in a lower amount. So we want MP recovery. We want MP recovery out of combat. We want MP recovery in combat. The shield recovery modifier isn't really a big deal on her. We don't really need this shield recovery modifier as she's not really sitting there recovering shield like an Enzo, and she's not getting a burst of shield like a Viessa. We want the shield to be a mitigation before our HP starts getting tagged, and we want our MP up so we can dish out more poison damage. That's what we're more or less looking for. Defense and MP along with some slight mitigation there with a little shield buffer, right? Because you see the whole set, it isn't really catered towards shield at all. It's more catered towards defense and a little bit of HP. But we get the HP bump from going into her ultimate form. So you can think of this as a little additive on top of there, because we're going to get HP there, we're going to get HP there, and then we get more HP for going to her ultimate form. Hopefully that all clicks and you understand how that's working out when we think about maximizing our potential with ultimate Freyna. Now when it comes to the Arche tuning on Freyna or ultimate Freyna, I'm going to say that she is going to stay in the skill area category. And if you feel like your skills are doing okay, which in my experience they are not, because they are missing that little bit of oomph that they used to have back in the day. I want old Freyna back, so I'm probably going to stay within the skill category here. That skill cooldowns, that skill power, I want all that. And if I can eke out a little bit more survivability, I'd probably again push her HP up. Now, if you're not looking for having a lot of skill cooldown, you can stick here in the skill power category, giving her more skill power. You've already increased her skill power modifier in her modules, so you get more big base times a little multiplier to get you more better ticks, right? You're doing good stuff one way to get a better result here, to get an okay end result to add to her overall kit. That way, if you didn't want to go into skill cooldowns, into skill duration and skill crit rate, like I said, she's not really a crit character anymore. So, I mean, if you want all that, that's cherry on top, right? This is just if you want all that. Me, I'm probably going to refund all that there. And then I'm going to end up going into the skill power and then some resistances, just so I'm not as susceptible to all the damage that could come with just being, ultimate Freyna, or being Freyna, just being the slightly squishy character that she is. But she's got a tough exterior as a Descendant. If you don't, in the times that I've played, I don't really see many Freynas going down, as again, I see more glass cannon bunnies going down, and I see more glass cannon lepics going down than Freynas not being able to carry their own weight in a fight. So again, I would go with more defensive measures and then stick with the skill power, avoiding the Colossi additive things, because she's not a Colossi killer anymore. That's more of a Haley thing, a Glade thing, or an Enzo thing. This extra little crit damage and crit rate that you get on here, again, if you like it, I'd say tack on like the little nodes here, hit the purples here, take it back, and then you can go into her MP. You can tick all those and then swoop around to get some of that. There will be more than enough left over to tack on some of these little purples up here to get that, and then to swoop back around and then go back to the thing that's important for her, which is the MP recovery in combat, out of combat, along with getting more MP added to her and getting that skill power increase significantly through the Arche tuning. And then you could potentially dabble in some slight health and defensive options there with her Arche tuning. Again, I wouldn't want to go into her whole gun area over here with multi-hit and all this stuff like that unless you're really looking to utilize the Fallen Hope and the Malevolent to maybe its maximum potential, but while putting your character in danger. And I don't really like putting my character in danger to that extent, because the Fallen Hope and the Malevolent can easily do Purge 27, I want to say, easily by themselves with even the mediocre build that I have on my Freyna. I don't use Ultimate Freyna. I use my regular Freyna. And the multi-hit chance, the multi-hit damage, and all the stuff that gets put out with that, all this would make the gun an absolute beast in all accounts. But again, I want my character to feel better, and this is the way that I'm talking. A little bit more here, a lot there, dabble in this. But this is her bread and butter right here. This is where I feel she should be, is in all this. The Arche tuning for Freyna, or Ultimate Freyna, whichever one you want to say, whichever one you want to use, she needs her power back, right? The Arche tuning tree isn't here to elevate her to godlike status, but it is in order to get her back to feeling a little bit more like her usual old self, if that makes sense. She's not going to be who she was before, but she won't feel as bad as she does today, thanks to Arche tuning. And then we can see that Arche tuning is probably going to get a buff later on, and then that'll give us more options on doing other things in the future, but then that's a whole nother rabbit hole. So Freyna not only is a tortured or tormented character in the game, but she was also in the IRL one of the characters that was very decisive at the beginning of the game's launch. She came out mediocre, got buffed when her ultimate came out, got toned down, just like how it always goes. You hit a valley, she hit a peak, went back, and then she plateaued. And this is where I think that they want to keep her, and this is where I think that they are going to stay with her. They want her to be not a jack of all trades like she used to be. They want her to stay in a lane of being an AoE dealer. They don't want her to be the next Haley variant just with poison instead of ice. So hopefully this video gave you and shined some light on how Freyna works and how she is to be used as a character. If I missed any things, go ahead and put them down in the comment section below. And then let me know if there's anything else that I could have talked about that would have helped out Freyna mains in the future. I will be having a Freyna video build type of guide there somewhere in the future, talking about Fallen Hope, talking about Malevolent, showing you modules and showing you how to kit out a character. But I'd rather do that with an Ultimate Freyna, and I'm not going to waste your time with a basic Freyna build. Even though you can carry that over, I don't think that it is it's going to be completely reflective on what you can do for a character, because again, base characters are to dip your toe into, and ultimate characters is where you will ultimately land at when it comes to maining a character. So get in where you fit in, like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.